Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we put the business back in lady business. Hosted by Jennifer Justice, founder and CEO of the Justice Department, a management strategy and law firm that works with female and woke male entrepreneurs, executives, talent, brands, and creatives to build and maximize their wealth, focusing in the areas of tech, consumer product, finance, media, entertainment, and fashion. Jennifer interviews entrepreneurial women who have done it all, who will be sharing their secrets on all things business, especially as a woman. These highly successful women will share strategies and insights, including what not to do and what it takes to win. And now, here's your host, Jennifer Justice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. Today, I have two of my favorite ladies on here today from Yola Mezcal. And full disclosure, I am an investor, but also very good friends with these ladies. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. So today I have on Gina Corral Aliete.
Yes.
And Yola Jimenez. Look at that.
Perfect.
Woohoo! Hi, ladies.
Hi. An Italian and a Mexican start a mezcal. No.
Welcome to a bar.
Exactly. And here we are today to talk all about it. So I just love your founder story, and I love the journey you all been on together. And I would like to start a little bit with that, like how you met and did this. I mean, I find that everybody who listens and everyone who's on here has such a different journey and story about how they started their companies. And it's never super linear, and it just gives inspiration to other people who want to start these. So who wants to jump off on how you two met and decided to start this company?
Definitely not linear still. But I think Yola should start because it's her story.
I mean, yeah, it definitely doesn't feel very linear, and it feels like, in a way, it's been going on for most of our adult lives in a way. So it feels very, very much like a part of who we are, which I really enjoy. And it's definitely been a process of growth of the company, but a lot of personal growth and a lot of very different circumstances that we've been through the years. But I think that we're going on like our 14th, 15th year of friendship.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think so, around 15 years for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Very long time. And all those things, I'm sure, that come through with being friends and then starting a company together, a mezcal company in particular, which is extremely known in spirits, very male dominated, seen a different way, you just positioned a certain way, and you are here starting it to like change that whole dynamic.
Yeah. And being in as friends and business owners and partners is also beyond liquor, which is this whole other bag of, challenges, is complicated because as women, we go through so many changes as we grow up and enter these new chapters.
And in particular for Yola Mezcal, with real social impact components and sustainability components, which most liquor and spirits companies and beverage companies in general don't really think about, right? So exactly. You're hiding all. Yeah. So how are you doing?
We jumped into a big fire.
Yeah. All right. So let's go about how you guys started the company. How did you decide to start it?
Well, I think like one of the reasons that we had so many ideas, especially about social impact and how we wanted to grow, is that we were so young when we met. And I feel like that gave us not only, of course, energy, but we had that naivete of we can change the world in many different ways. And we had no idea how it was going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of convincing, and mostly a lot of conversations with men that didn't believe in what we were doing.
Yeah.
But we never had that experience in the corporate world. So we didn't know. And everyone's going to believe in our story and everyone's going to want to support a company that's trying to do good. And of course, the world is not quite like that. But I thought I still think it's a really beautiful inception our company that we were young and really truly wanted to do things differently. And for me, when I met Gina, I was kind of just starting with mezcal, and she was one of the first people that really fell in love with it, believed in it, so there its potential, and wanted to make it grow in a good way, and also fell in love with Mexico, which I think it's wonderful too, because it makes a very different beginning when you create something based on your hopes for it, instead of only seeing the profitable side of things.
Right.
So for me, that really brought a lot of beautiful moments and ideas. But we met in a restaurant in Mexico City that has become a classic of interaction in this new era of Mexico, called Contramar, which I'm sure if you've ever been to Mexico City and Roma, you have gone. And yeah, like 15 years ago, we were introduced by a mutual friend, and I gave Gina Mezcal, and like I said, she just completely fell in love with it and started being its biggest supportive in America. Took it to New York, took it to LA, was constantly telling everyone that she knew how different and how good of a product it was, and how it was really made of people and women in Oaxaca. So when I took Gina and Lika, our other founding partner, there, and they met everyone who is still the family that we were to this day, and so we've known them for a very long time, and they met them, they saw them, they understood the work. That's when we decided to do a company that ideas were based upon keeping those traditions and respecting Oaxaca, and most of all supporting the community.
So let's back up a little bit. Like, how did you get into mezcal? Is it your family? Like, why?
It was my grandfather, really, because mezcal has only become popular and profitable in the past decade. My family wasn't at all interested in being part of it, but my grandfather is completely indigenous from the Sierra of Oaxaca, and grew up around mezcal, and grew up making mezcal. So I remember all of my childhood, him drinking mezcal with his friends or going to the towns, and then he started making his own, and it was something that made him really happy and proud. And for me, always had the connotation of Oaxaca. That is why I always remember that smell as Oaxaca.
Mm-hmm.
So when he gets sick, and seeing that everyone in my family wasn't interested in it, and seeing a lot of people even in Oaxaca City that trying to preserve that much of it at that time, 16 years ago, I really wanted to try to find, even if it's a very minimal way, to be something that it wasn't lost. So I looked for his recipes, and I wanted to contact all the people that I here work with. And I knew Javier and his family from going to the farm. So I wanted to preserve it. And I started a little bar in Mexico to just start bringing really artisanal small batches of mezcal to Mexico City, which at that time you couldn't really find. And it was still rare here. And then from then I started meeting a lot of producers, and I met Gina and Lique through at different times, but through mezcal. And the three of us wanted to do something together, but also really wanted to do something with Oaxaca. And I started seeing the explosion of mezcal, that it was pretty much from one day to the next, of having a spirit that was completely the underdog, because it's done by indigenous people in Mexico. Suddenly have so much support and love, especially from the culinary scene in Mexico City. But then seeing how much that was growing, and having a lot of people contact me because I'm from there. And I knew producers about how they were starting a brand. And it went from 1 year of, oh, I really want to try mezcal and go to a bar, to 2 or 3 years later, having 4 or 5 people contact me a day about starting their own mezcal brand.
So at that point, you're like, if you're gonna ask me and you have no experience and no connection, why don't we do it?
Exactly. And like the number, I was just like very, very impressed. I think our company is, I think, number 40 something in the Mezcal Association, right, Gina?
Yeah.
And I think like now it's in the thousands and thousands, and it's been, 8 years. So it's really an incredible exponential growth of people having brands. And yeah, so the three of us said we really want to do this in the right way. We want to have a brand that preserves the traditional recipes. We want to know where the plants are coming from. We want to know that the people, the mezcaleros are involved, are partners on our brand, not employees that we're gonna, put in a factory. And we want to make sure that it's really Mexican owned, Oaxacan owned, Oaxacan produced. And I've been lucky enough that I have two partners that believe in that completely and have from day one. So
Yola Mezcal was born.
There's a lot of stuff in between, but yeah.
Yep. No, but it's great. You're like, it's an artisanal, and it's like, when you want to preserve the tradition and the heritage, and because that's really what it is. It's like calling, it's like calling bubbly wine champagne when it's not from Champagne. It's, there's an authenticity to it. And because it's your family's farm, makes it even more amazing, And then, so how did you guys figure out what you would all do, right? Because Gina, what were you doing at the time?
Oh boy, I don't know what wasn't I doing, I think is a better question. I was doing so many things. I was sort of like this. I found my way into so many different industries and types of work. I was costume designing, I was styling, I was producing events, I was cooking on the side for like special, parties. I had a kind of a plethora of experience, but had a hard time kind of like consolidating and focusing into one trade, I would say. And I think that I always felt very kind of frustrated when I'd be on sets and I'd want to have more control, or I'd think that I could solve the problems more quickly. I loved leading teams and putting things together and solving problems and making things happen. But I don't think I had found an avenue of direction in something that I felt like worthy of, investing a really big chunk of my life into. And I think I also had some personal stuff happen. My father passed away and I had a really bad breakup. And I think that like kickstarted me into wanting to do something meaningful and something I cared about. And I felt like, at the point that I was at with the fashion stuff that I was adjacent to, I felt so kind of frustrated by waste and by the, lack of awareness around what we were creating, and also from an eco perspective, just like where we were headed in America. And I think meeting Yola and always having like a fascination and a love for the culinary world and the hospitality world, but not knowing exactly like what entry point I wanted to be part of it. This felt like it was a kind of a combination of everything that I cared about and loved in the world. And I had this deep passion for what I discovered through her in Mexico. I mean, I think a lot of people around me 15 years ago when I first went to Mexico City were like scared to go and paranoid about, safety there. And I feel like I got this access to this like treasure of a place and people, and like the complete opposite. And I think that branding of Mexico at the time really hurt me. It really upset me. Yeah. And I really wanted to sort of change people's perspective on that, both because Yola obviously showed me the most beautiful world and people and food and art, but also, I grew up in Southern California around a lot of like agriculture, farming towns. And I think like, yeah, it just spoke to me to be in Oaxaca and see that. And I care about sustainability and farming and where we get our food. And I think the way that I saw people care about where they were starting to care about where they were getting their food, but not caring about everything they put in their body, was really fascinating to me too. I think like, people were drinking and consuming things that are mass produced, industrial produced chemicals basically, but then wondering where their chicken came from. So I think like
so true.
And I think mezcal was just like, I don't know, it was the most magical feeling, high experience I'd ever had. And Yola is obviously the most essential part of that in a way, but I think, I was just, it really changed my life, this experience. So I wanted to spend as much time as I could come up with, and energy that I could come up with trying to share it with people. And that's kind of what I started doing with her, and trying to find a way to make it a reality. And had no experience obviously in liquor, and also as an executive of this sort. But I think it's a lot of, you read a lot about how people become entrepreneurs, and most of the time it's instinct, it's passion, it's perseverance, and it's just like stick-to-itiveness. And that's sort of what when we look back, like, we've made so many mistakes. I've made so many mistakes, but you just kind of like, if you do not give up, you can find your way. And and I think if you have like a solid enough product that people can get behind and believe in, on top of like having, I think, the best mezcal I've ever had. I mean, when we first met, I'd never tried mezcal, so Yola's was the best. And now there's thousands of mezcals we compete with on the shelf, and I still pick up ours, and it's my favorite one after drinking quite a few. So like, the product is exceptional still to me. It's what I want to drink every day.
I love it every day.
And in every way, Yola's mission and belief system and ethics are like really, really like get me up in the morning and make me like keep going and trying to find our way. But I think like the other kind of exciting thing that happened, aside from being excited about the mezcal category, being excited about Mexico, and having this product be like so beautiful, and of course like what she wanted to implement in terms of a direct pay system there. I think there was also the through line for me was seeing like the shift culturally on this side of the border too, and this is such a big part of like what your mission has been, JJ, in your career. Post music stuff is like, there was a shift in terms of women actually being breadwinners and actually starting to make choices. And, we kind of started having these conversations, Yola and I, before the women's movement's most recent explosion, post Me Too and over, the Trump era. But I think we were just realizing that our friends were really like taking a lot of initiative and responsibility for their own lives, and needing to, and having access to be able to. But that conversation, I think, drove sort of the foundation of what we started, which was how can we actually support women in this place where they, Oaxaca, a rural developing village where they don't have as much information as we have, and how can we kind of like marry that with what women are doing and saying in our community here, and how do we uplift those voices and make a change in an industry that has an archaic kind of structure to it that blocks women's voices. So that was all of that kind of coming together. And Leaky, I'll give her credit for that. She kind of came up with Strong Woman, Strong Drink. And I think like we'd come out of the skinny girl margarita moment where, women need their own thing, but it still has a bunch of sugar chemicals and is pink, I think we came out of that moment going, it doesn't need to look like what you think girls need things to look like. And it doesn't need to taste like what we've said things need to be tasting like. They can be a little bit more unisex, I guess. And we can fight for equality through being like more empowered as women. So all of that together felt pretty rich and worth
starting a company.
The next decade or more of our life.
You hit on something very briefly, and I just want to hammer down a little bit, the direct pay system.
Yeah.
So can you talk about what that is?
I think one of the things that we were most shocked about was how women really didn't have a title for their work. I still don't. I think the majority of women in Mexico don't have a specific title for their job, and they don't have a bank account, and they don't have Social Security, and they're expected to do every type of job at all the time, but their husband or whoever the man is receives all of the actual practicality and specifically the money for everyone else's job. And that was something that we felt really strongly against. And I kept seeing women working way harder and in so many different aspects of the palenque, like I was saying, from cleaning to like cooking for everyone, and to make sure that everything was organized, to receiving people, and to different parts of the production as well. And then the payment and the conversation would be talked to a man. And I said, I want to change that immediately. I want for the the women that we work with to feel empowered, to feel respected, to feel like their time is worth equally and their hour and their work is seen most of all. That's when we started figuring a way for direct payment that has only growth and been very successful, because it does, like with everything, I think when you are treated like an equal and a human being, you act very differently. And that's the problem that women have had throughout history, is that we haven't had that chance. And in poor places like Mexico, that's has been even slower. So it is incredibly important that those changes happen and affect society, and they always affect society for the better.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
it happens always.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was so impressive, when I first started talking to you all, is, people not understanding that women were not getting paid directly, and for you to be like, no, it's not okay. You can't work for us and not get paid directly, and you're right. It's like people want to feel like a part of it, and they want their voice heard, and, definitely paid directly. So I think that's something to really highlight in the journey of Yola Mezcal for sure,
And I think so
Oh.
we not only women get paid directly, but I think like what we've learned too is there's just so few Mexicans that are actually benefiting from the mezcal and tequila, the agave industry right now.
Right.
And so the fact that Yola is a woman is extraordinary, and that we're hiring women is extraordinary. But even just the fact that she's Mexican and Oaxacan is also to be noted, because the majority of the agave industry is really the winners are not Mexican right now.
Right, exactly.
The industry in the US. So I think that's also seems absurd to even have to consider, but it is worth noting.
No, so true. Yeah.
And it will be
walking
less and less.
the talk, right?
What do you say, Yola?
Oh, that it will be less and less. The way that the industry is growing is going to be less and less, and it is in the hands of Mexicans for the foreseeable future. And it's unfortunate, because for Oaxaca it's a very rooted way of life.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we're launched now, right? And you guys then decide you're going to build this brand. And how are you going to fund it?
We got to call JJ.
Before I got involved.
The beginning of the brand was very organic. We did not know mezcal category wasn't even really that established. So this was about 8-ish years ago. We started throwing these dinner parties, and Yola would bring apothecary bottles with different recipes of her grandfathers, and everyone would go, what is this stuff? And like call us all week later going, when's Yola coming back? But we, it was very much, can we do this? How do we do this? Asking so many questions, just anyone who would listen, lend an ear, and just hammering away at it. But I think, in the very early days, it was our friends that were at those early dinner parties that were like, we want to be part of this. It's amazing. We're so excited for you guys. And everyone would sort of chip in along the way, which obviously those are our angels, and they're a big part of our community still. And then we got to a point where we really launched, and we had product in the market, and it was then it became a sprint, because we got a lot of great press, which was amazing. I think our story really resonated, and that was all very exciting. But then it was sort of about, okay, how do we keep up? How do we scale production? What's the timing? What's the ebb and flow of all of this? And how do we build a team that makes sense? And it was very much a DIY project in the beginning. And through friends of friends and through relationships, we did bring in some more sophisticated investors. But there was a point that I remember the three of us stopped and went, what if we do all of this, and at the end, it's all white men that own the company, because we're getting all of these, because they're the ones who are around, and available and can invest and are more avidly investing. And venture capital, like 90% of the time you get on the phone with them, it's run by white men. So it just started to become more and more apparent that we could do all of this work, but essentially, like, it is a very cash intensive business, the liquor industry, to be competitive in the US. And we were realizing at some point the company would end up being majority owned by men if we didn't kind of rethink this. And then we of course met you through one of our amazing people in our community, Mia. and you kind of gave me a real advisory lunch talk where you were like, you have to get female investors to represent what you're doing in Mexico. And which was sort of it was outside of my, didn't know to go that route. And I didn't even think to go that route at that time. But you obviously opened up this incredible world to us of women who are ready to like make those leaps and take chances. And so the cap table currently, not by volume, but in terms of male to female, we have 60% women on our cap table, which is very exciting and a lot to do with you, JJ.
Oh, thank you. That's not why I asked the question, but thank you very much.
No, but it's cool because you realize women are instinctive and they go off of like gut, and they really are excited to help each other, and they galvanize the way women do. I mean, women really galvanize. And I think that the heart of this company is so full that it will go on and it will grow, and we will win within the world that we're in. And I think that is going to be because there's so many women who have supported us. I think there's a ton of amazing men who have supported us as well. But from a practical perspective, I think men just look at these businesses very differently than women do. Yeah. And I think we have a lot of support that's just like so much fueled our passion every day for it.
And I think I think that's so important, and something that we've seen so much, even when we were saying about direct payment about 10 years ago. Here's something that in Mexico has changed drastically, even in rural places, because women have really started working together. And now I think we are coming up to like a 35% to 40% workforce. We are the two presidential presidents are women. We just passed nationwide abortion rights, and we're on our way to Congress to pass a law about equal pay as well in Mexico City and some of the bigger states. And it's all done through women associations supporting each other, which we're trying to do a lot. So you can make a great deal of difference, even in a country like Mexico that 10 years ago you couldn't even get pay, to suddenly be run and have rights in a way bigger percentage than America does, for instance.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Well, yes. And what you were just saying now, Mexico will have more rights than the United States when it comes to women's reproductive health. So
we do now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's crazy when you think about it that way. The land of the free. Yeah. So, well, but you know what? It's going to take more women having capital in their hands to have more of a say in, and distribution of wealth among the genders, equal distribution that will give us more impact and say in the US in particular, so, but I love hearing all of that. And I love that, it's going to be part of your story and is part of the story. But, now, so you're in this like era where it's like you're established, you're in all the hot and top restaurants in every major city, Mexico City, New York, LA, all over. And, really growing your presence and your footprint, but what kind of like obstacles and things are you coming across now, knowing that, to grow, especially in the spirits business that is mostly male dominated? Like, what are you finding that you could give any advice for anybody else who's coming up behind you?
I just don't know if anyone should start a liquor. No, just kidding. Unless you have a real story and a real product. Because I will say this, when we first started, we took a few meetings with distributors, and I mean, the book we could write. I remember one of the first ones got on the phone with us and goes, yeah, I don't know why you'd make this about the fact that you're women. I mean, that's just going to alienate people. I mean, we had so many different conversations like that were just really discouraging. And at the time there was like, I think very few, like I said, maybe there was Skinny Girl Margarita that was successful. But other than that, there weren't a lot of liquor companies or CPG companies that were toting like female founded. And I think there was obviously a big excitement around that post Me Too, and that became a real battle cry for people in a beautiful way. But now there's a ton of liquor companies and packaged good companies that have female founders now, and that's just like very encouraging and exciting. But there still really aren't any major global brands that have had that as their as their foundation. And I think that's really interesting. I think the ones that are seemingly big are mostly probably owned by men, but there's a woman in the forefront, which is really just an endorsement deal. there's very few that are truly owned by women and being run by women that have made it to the global stage. So I do think, interestingly enough, even though we've been at it for a while now, I still am realizing like there's so much path to pave, which is exciting and daunting, but, and you know, I it's not necessarily about winning within that, but it is about trying to make sure that happens, because I think that would be such a huge triumph in general.
Well, it also paves the way for people behind you, right?
Exactly. I mean, that it makes it that it is possible, you know. But distribution is still a very archaic structure in the US. And I think people maybe don't even realize how bought they are when they walk in most places by these distributors, and how locked in a lot of the accounts, the bars and restaurants and the hotel groups really are sort of at the mercy of whatever these distributors want you to have on your shelves. So advice is be prepared to go to battle with that. Be prepared to try to find like the best route to market early if you're starting, so that that is someone you're holding hands with and helping you get along the way. We've had like extreme situations there where like we've had smaller, medium-sized distributors that really are partners and really working hard to help support us. And then we've had other situations where we're almost blocked from business because, yeah, you know, because they have their mandates from other brands. So I do think, you know, the distribution is a real thing in the US. But yeah, having a strategy there that makes sense, and having a really experienced team is important as well.
Building your brand, right? Because you're not just doing mezcal, like you've had experiences like Yola Dia and others bring the community together, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's such a huge piece of why we exist, beyond obviously the fact that we do have this incredible story and we do have this incredible product. What we've done in terms of our community in every way, in terms of celebrating the brand and bringing people together and having the conversations that we've had around the things we care about politically, has made for, I think, consumers to really care about us. So even if we aren't as big or mainstream as other products, I think we've managed to have like garnered really loyal fans because of those things and what we stand for. So that's been a beautiful piece of building the brand. And ultimately, a distributor can block you all they want, but you know, if somebody really wants to drink Yola, hopefully they'll get to.
Well, not only that, it's like, you know, then they can walk the walk. It's, you know, can be scary as a brand to be on a certain side of the political spectrum or a certain voice, you know what I mean? And so we saw so many of them during BLM and Me Too, kind of take a back seat or, you know, kind of do it. But to say like, and put a stake in the ground and say, this is what we stand for, and this is what we're going to stand for forever. Also built a lot of really loyal followers and people who want to support you along the journey, knowing that there's going to be haters along the way too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw so many shifts in all of that. I think there was a moment where everyone was sort of sick of brands toting these, you know, it became so ubiquitous or so saturated to sort of attach yourself to good doing or to, you know, organizations and giving back. But I think, yeah, it's just a core element of who we are, and the brand is an extension of that. And I think it's always been important to us, and it will continue to be.
Yeah.
And Yola Dia was like a really wonderful, beautiful expression of that, that we were really proud of, I think. And hopefully I won't dangle the carrot too low, but we'll come back next year.
So just so the listeners understand, Yola Dia was an all-female concert held in LA in 2019?
Yes, so all female identifying music and art. Yola did an incredible art project there. We got a partnership with Live Nation, and we sort of pitched them this idea that I think they thought they were just getting like a girl concert lineup, and they were put all their normal vendors in, but we really pushed them. And Yola brought amazing chefs from Mexico and did a really beautiful art project with the ACLU's immigration department, where we had different artists create flags in the dimensions of national flags, and we auctioned them off for the immigration department. So that was a really beautiful aspect of it, and it was a very cool event. But it was a nice, yeah, and we supported the Downtown Women's Center. But it just felt like a really 360 experience of everything that we cared about when we started the company.
and still care about. And hopefully there will be another one.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to be too, yes, but there's deep conversations about that coming back next year, which I hope everyone listening can come to, if so, because it was really fun. It'll be.
So I can't believe this, but we're already out of time. And because this is like, I have a million more things that I could ask you all. And I know that the audience would love to hear, but I also know that you're very busy. So
You can come back.
You can come back. So let's get to where people can get Yola Mezcal. Where can you find it?
Well, we just launched a new website, which is really exciting. So you have a very clean, easy customer experience if you want to order online. And then on there is also all of our stockists. We're in about 12 markets in the US, mostly LA, New York, as far as like really strong presence. And we're launching in Europe soon. And
that's it, Yola, Yola Mezcal.
Yola Mezcal. And we're also launching a few new products, so keep on the lookout for those. We'll send you
very good holiday gifting coming.
Holiday soon. Okay. And JJ, you're just a pioneer, and we're so proud to be part of your orbit. And thank you for everything that you've done for us and a lot of other women in business.
You're just getting started, baby. We're just getting started.
Thank
All
you
right, so I do have one question I ask everybody at the end of these podcasts, though, and it is, what's the worst advice you've ever received in business? Which is, for women, it's a lot. So Yola, I will start with you.
Cut corners.
I love that you just do like that. Cut corners.
They're like, you can make this cheaper and you can make this that. And I feel like one of the main reasons we do have the support that we have and the love that we have is we care about the product very much and the people behind it. And I think that's, I think that's important.
How we got where we are today with like climate change is because everyone was cutting corners and making it the
corners cut. Now we're boiling.
And now we're literally boiling. Yeah.
Okay, and Gina, you?
Mine's a little bit more abstract, but I feel like a lot of men early on and still do tell me don't ride the highs and don't ride the lows. And I get that in one vein, but I think that's just not being a woman. I think being a woman is riding the emotions, and emotions are so telling and informative. And I don't think it always means that you're hysterical and woeing out and having to lay down and get horizontal. I just think it means that you're really feeling it all. And I think that is the journey. It's feeling it. And I think part of maybe we're really extra blessed that we did this as friends, but it's also harder because you're friends, because you care so much about each other. And it's not just about the bottom line. It's about like growing together and like celebrating each other and like challenging each other. And I would not have done this again if I didn't get to feel all those highs.
Yeah. It's also called passion when it's a man, by the way.
Yeah. I'm like, that's been the most extraordinary piece of it is not just the business side of it, but the journey has been really beautiful. So I would encourage people to ride it.
I love it. Thank you so much. Everyone go out and buy some Yola Mezcal. So you're supporting this beautiful mission and vision.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you both for being on here. I'm so happy we made this happen. And to everyone listening, thank you so much. And until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.